Welcome back to Geek Channel 8. Today on the show, we are talking the 2003 Michael Crichton novel adaptation, Timeline.
Well, I binge watched the entirety of what was available to me of Resident Alien, and I really loved it. I found myself talking like the main character. My kid was like, "Why are you talking like that?" I'm like, "Okay, you guys sit down and watch it with me." The thing is, it ramps up from the beginning. It gets more its own world and better and better. Oddly, it reminds me of almost like a slice of life anime where there's one weird thing going on, like the main character's a squid or something, and then everything else is about like regular interactions between regular people. It's a very unique thing to its own. They do name check and reference some things that came before. It was a blast. I was like, oh, now I gotta wait for the next season because it's not on the platforms I'm on, but I'm ready to wait. Of course, the main actor is reprising his role in Andor. His original role was in Rogue One, and he's reprising his role in this season of Andor. Loved him. Also, you guys will remember him as the pilot from Firefly.
Oh, Alan Tudyk. Yeah. I have been sort of despairing at the state of music on film or
Mm.
music on streaming video. It kind of sucks. So when I find something good, I'll watch it. I've been watching, I think it's called Get Back, the Peter Jackson Beatles documentary.
I had no idea he did that.
Oh God, it's like 9 hours long because Peter Jackson and Beatles. It's like day by day. And so I can only watch one day at a time. And then and that's like, I'm not a huge Beatles fan either. So it's like that's enough Beatles for me to take, you know? But it's really hard to find concerts and stuff like that to watch. You name a band that you like, and it's almost impossible to find a good concert of them online. It's rare, and I don't know why. I think it's a music rights issue, but Prime doesn't have it, Netflix doesn't have it, HBO Max doesn't have it. YouTube's your best bet, but a lot of it's bootleg.
A lot of creatives, I've noticed a lot of, like people who do video essay stuff on YouTube, they'll either have exclusive content on their Patreon, or you get that stuff first on your Patreon. And I'm like, this seems like an ideal thing for bands to do.
Well, keep in mind that the old model for bands still exists. So these big bands we're talking about, they have record industry deals and they don't
Yeah.
own that. The record industry does, right? So the record industry could do that, but they'd have to get their head out of their asses and do that. So like, I don't know, Sony like obviously owns their own label. So I don't know who they're associated with streaming platform wise. Maybe that's Paramount Plus. So they could have those concerts on like Paramount Plus. I live in a place where most bands don't come through too often. So one of the only ways I can see these bands live or as close to live as possible is on video. I've seen some good ones here and there, but the vast majority never happen, unless they're a huge band. The Rolling Stones, I think, has done 25 concert films or more,
Well, yeah,
So,
yeah. My introduction to the concert film was, Talking Heads stopped making sense, and it blew my mind out because I was like, "What's the big deal?" And then I was like, "Oh, that's the big deal." And of course, those guys were freaking, art students. So, and they were on top of their game visually, and of course, there's a whole other layer of having to edit and produce, and usually taking, not in the case of this Ozzy thing, but a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, this was over the course of an entire tour. We're going to put together one perfect thing. So I can get it, but I also am like, that seems like something, the footage has got to be there. And it seems like something that people would definitely want. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised there's not just like a dedicated channel to it.
even if the audio quality was there, the content just isn't.
Yeah.
I don't, someone should like launch a streaming service just for music.
I think we probably talked about this before, but I remember thinking, way back when I first started seeing, video over the internet, that somebody who owned a place plays, where bands played would just be streaming that stuff. Like it would be like, boom, okay, so it would be like, hey, this is what's happening right now at Bogarts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I think we talked about that before. I would totally do that. Now you got to get the bands to agree to it, but I would be like, look, we're going to live stream it every night, and it's like you can buy a season pass like you would to the zoo or something, and it's like,
yeah.
and then you can watch all the concerts you want that we have that season.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that will be, and I keep on. There's probably existing like things right now. I'm like, again, I'm gonna go back to Patreon. I wonder if that will work. Just this is one of my crazy things. A while back, I thought, hey, a church set up like and decided to set up an OnlyFans account, and just slip that right in there. It's like, hey, sign up for our OnlyFans and just basically catfish people with that. And I'm like, but that could work for anything. I mean, as far as I know, there's no like requirement that your OnlyFans or whatever, any of these things has to be perverse. I guess you could make a any kind of tube account and put that out there.
yeah, I mean, the platform before it became known for adult content was created as a way for celebrities to reach their fans directly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like James Doohan, OnlyFans.
Yeah, I mean, you laugh, but that was what it was originally created to be. It's just that it took off among adult performers, like, because they have no other venue to reach.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We live in interesting times. This is there's just so many crazy possibilities. I know me personally, I'm not a person who will go in for a Patreon, but I have more than once ordered something from somebody who I know about them because of their content on YouTube. So, it's still working, it's still creating a customer for them. Yeah.
So, in other media that I'm consuming, I'm reading a book I probably should have read in like seventh grade. The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin.
Oh, wow.
And I'd never read it, and I'm not liking it. Um, so this is the second Ursula Le Guin novel that I've read, and my problem with Ursula Le Guin, I think the other one I read was Always Coming Home. My problem is that her writing is all telling. It's like all narrative almost, and it's like very little dialogue, at least as far as I've gotten. I'm about 4 to 5 chapters in. That would be fine if she wrote in a style like Tolkien, where it's like reading, like you feel like you're reading an ancient epic,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. It's written in more modern language. So neither the writing style nor the writing craft engages me. So then it makes it hard to get into the story. But I will say the world building is awesome. The world building and the characters and all of that is really great. And I can see that Rowling must have like read this before creating Harry Potter because it's got, the wizard's rectory where all the boys go to school and to learn wizarding, and he's the foretold one, and then there's the other wizard kid that's like his rival who doesn't like him, and tries to bully him and all of that, and it's like, oh, I get it, this is where Harry Potter came from. But here's the thing. J.K. Rowling's writing style is much more accessible. So I'm like, okay.
Right, right. I actually, there's many things to dislike about her. I don't. the idea that she, because there's all kinds of stuff. She got this from here. She got this from there. Who cares? I have nothing against any of that. We've been reinventing stuff forever. We have been reinterpreting things forever. It's let's put it this way. We all know how much, like, down to like lines of dialogue and pieces of action in Star Wars were just stolen. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's not. I don't think that's a valid criticism, because she did something. She put something together that just hit different. So
yeah, and that's one of the running themes of this show, right? This whole show is based on that concept that
yeah,
these are, but I would rather read, you know, Rowling's politics aside, her social issues and all of that, her personal life, all of that aside, her writing is way better. It's supposed to be young adult, but even at that, I would read it all day over Ursula Le Guin, you know?
all right. So okay, so let's get into some stuff today, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah, okay, so we have finished our run on dinosaurs
Yes.
based on Michael Crichton books, and now we're going to do another movie based on a Michael Crichton book without dinosaurs. Timeline from 2003. So before I get into the specifics of the movie, as always, we'll give a little background to what was going on in 2003. January 1st of 2003, the European Union adopts the euro as its official currency, increasing economic integration across member countries.
I didn't. That's. I had no idea. I thought that had been like a long time.
Oh no. February, archaeologists in France announce new findings at the Chateau de Gisors, a medieval fortress linked to the Knights Templar and rumored treasure, sparking fresh interest in medieval mysteries and legends. March 20th, U.S. and coalition forces begin the invasion of Iraq, launching Operation Iraqi Freedom and marking the start of a major 21st century conflict. Kind of like one of the first major 21st century conflicts. In April, a medieval manuscript dating from the 13th century was digitized and made publicly available by a major European library, helping historians and enthusiasts access rare documents online for the first time.
Oh, wow.
May 14th, 2003, the Human Genome Project is declared complete, a major scientific milestone about understanding humanity's origins and biology.
Excellent.
June 24th, the Concorde made its final commercial flight, ending the era of supersonic passenger travel. I feel like we're just going backwards.
Right?
Like the dream, like the Concorde, I think first started flying when we were kids,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, someday we'll be able to cross the Atlantic on supersonic jets, and it'll be like super fast. We can just hop in, and by that afternoon, we'll be like hanging out in Paris. Yeah, not so much. Not anymore. July 4th, NASA's Mars rover Spirit lands safely on Mars, beginning a mission that greatly advanced understanding the red planet. In August of 2003, a Florida man dialed 911 to report his own kidnapping. According to reports, the man had actually forgotten where he parked his car and, in a moment of confusion and frustration, called emergency services claiming he'd been abducted. I don't really understand what the end game here is. Like, are the cops going to find your car for you? Like, I'm not sure. But Florida, Sorry, Florida. September 14th, the launch of the social networking site MySpace, shortly before its rise to massive popularity, marking a shift in digital communication.
Wow. Wow.
And in October 29th, the video game Call of Duty launches, beginning a franchise famed for its historical and military action themes, paralleling interest in immersive period-based experiences. All right, in November 23rd of 2003, timeline. was released. Now we'll go to Johanna with the production notes.
So I remember seeing this film close to when it came out. And in my memory, this film was a masterpiece. And in doing my production notes research, I was dismayed to discover it, in fact, was not Michael Crichton's favorite adaptation of one of his books. Obviously not going to top Jurassic Park, but I thought it would at least come close. Not so. As it turns out, Michael Crichton hated the adaptation of this so much that after this film timeline, he refused to license any more of his novels for adaptation. Although Steven Spielberg did manage to get the rights to Pirate Latitudes after Crichton's death.
Which still hasn't been made.
But the film was a financial flop in addition to perhaps a creative flop. The budget was $80 million for this picture, and the worldwide gross was $43.9 million. I did not picture this as a $40 million hole that they decided to throw money into, but I might have been a little bit distracted because I did watch this film in the course of watching all of Gerard Butler's movies up until that point, which included Dracula 2000, which we've already discussed.
Yes.
And Reign of Fire, another film I'd say at about the same level of quality as this film, and now I have to go revisit that one as well. Lara Croft Tomb Raider the second, which I do remember not being as good as the first one. Phantom of the Opera, of course, later in 2005, which set off this need, this quest, and 300 in 2006, which I think is the film that most people know Gerard Butler for. Other than How to Train Your Dragon, perhaps.
This is Sparta!
So the film was, of course, meant to be a big budget sci-fi spectacle film using a plot that is kind of similar to Michael Crichton's other plots. It's a, two-thread story, one corporate thriller and the other taking an intrepid group of academics and experts to a dangerous place where they don't belong, where they get to interact hands-on with the field that they have been studying. So kind of like Jurassic Park in that way. But in this case, the two storylines don't blend together nearly as well. There was a lot of practical effects, which is one of the only selling points of this film, apparently. They did seem to build a whole castle, and if you look at the behind-the-scenes interviews, that seems to be one of the things that the cast really enjoyed and talked about. But the plot was too difficult to hold together, and it seemed like audiences were not very interested in going back to the 100 Years' War in France, perhaps due to a general lack of knowledge about the 100 Years' War as a selling point versus, say, dinosaurs. So the film didn't do very well. We also missed out on the opportunity for Jerry Goldsmith's score to participate in the film. He created what seems to have been a beautiful score, and then they had to re-edit the film at the insistence of Sherry Lansing, the then head of Paramount Pictures, and so a new score was required by Brian Tyler, who I have never heard of before, and I think that says something.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
No one's accusing me, but I plead guilty too. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, no, this is how I feel. And it may not seem to have much to do with whatever we're watching. I did a little better this time. I knew I could go and tap into my favorite food tuber, Max Miller. He covers this kind of time period a lot. And first I said, well, maybe he did something from the 100 Years' War. I had to be a little bit more specific than that because I narrowed it down. In any case, this is what I'm recommending. It is called Medieval Frumenty.
I'm going to need a spelling on that.
Yes, it's Frumenty. It was popular in France. It's very close to the time period. It got popularized during a time when the rivers were very cold frozen over, so it was really bad winters, and the water mills weren't able to grind wheat for flour. So this bypassed that. You could still have your wheat. So essentially, this is a dish that is featured around wheat berries. So and it could be something anybody from any level of society would eat. The better levels are you put better additives into it. Okay, so you're starting out with whole wheat berries, right? Essentially, you're going to cook the wheat berries. All right, we can have a link to the actual recipe, but you're going to cook the wheat berries.
Wait, where do you get wheat berries?
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, so you can get wheat berries in one of two places, or two categories places. Either it's going to be in a frou-frou health food store type place, or I guess the down to earth health food store type place would also work. So anyway, some place where it's like emphasis on whole grains and bulk, et cetera, et cetera. I've never even seen it in, say, Kroger's, which is our local, groceries. So, like, definitely Whole Foods is the kind of place that would have it. The other place you'll find it is in...
Is this peasant food? Because that's not peasant shopping.
Right? Well, like so many other things, there's it's like, oh yeah, you can get this and you can pay out the butt for that. Or you can go to your... Like, for instance, I believe you might be able to get it in an Indian grocery store. You can probably get it in an African grocery store. You can get a lot of that ethnic grocery store where you're not going to pay out the wazoo for it because other people just use it and it's not a fancy, weird ingredient. It's sort of ironic since we eat so much flour in this country in various forms and lots of wheat, but very rarely do we eat the wheat berries. But basically, you cook them not unlike rice or something, all right? It's very similar. But after you've cooked it, you drain them off, and you're going to add milk and salt, and optionally saffron. Okay, I'm just going to say something right now. Saffron is just for the look.
The color, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's outrageously expensive. So,
it is outrageous. Well, if you know, it's basically just like the pollen from a flower or something. So
you could use turmeric.
I was going to suggest that. Don't use too much because turmeric has its own, has a very drying thing if you use a lot. But it definitely works, and especially if you're going to have this on the savory side, that would be ideal. So anyway, you want to use milk, salt, saffron optionally. You want to have some egg yolks, and you beat that right into the milk, right? And then you slowly heat it, okay? Slowly, because you don't want to set the eggs. You don't want to form a skim on top of your milk. And then when it's starting steaming, then you stir in the wheat. And bring up the heat a little bit. And basically you're stirring it until it's thickened up.
So you're making cream of wheat, essentially.
Yeah, okay, so the eggs, obviously they add thickening, they add some fat, they add, eggs. I don't know, I'll add eggs to almost anything. It's delicious, so these are all basic things that a peasant would have access to. Eggs, milk, grain. If they're lucky, I don't know. I don't even know why he included the saffron, honestly. I don't know if the peasants could have that.
It's probably pretty ugly looking without it. That's my guess.
Might be. But I immediately, he's, so Max suggested, he said, this is pretty good, but, cinnamon and sugar would be great. That's cool. And that's, it's like grits. Some people go, salty, savory, and some people go the other way. I don't see anything looking at sources necessarily where it was savory at all. But I know for me, when I look at this, I'm like, oh yeah, like I went to everything. I'm going to switch out the milk for whole cream because I can. And if I can't have whole cream, I'm going to add some butter in there. I'm going to add some garlic because I love that. Maybe I'm not sure what point I would put this in there, but introducing some some onions or something like that. Which these are things that a medieval peasant, definitely like, they're definitely going to have access to onions. Onions are a great storage crop, and it's something they would definitely have grown. You can make it go either direction, and like most things during most time periods, you can add whatever you would like to it for your outcome. We're not used to eating wheat berries, but I think if you like rice, if you like, any of these other whole grains that you are used to having, I mean, actually, what would be another one? Barley.
Barley.
Okay.
I was about
Yeah,
to say barley.
barley. Yeah, that's probably the closest thing that people might have had. Yeah, I think you'll really like this. And it is, now I want to, it's an interesting question. What would it look like without? But yeah, turmeric is definitely an option. And I'm wondering, because I would be surprised if there wasn't something that they could have gathered. I'm going to have to look at that more for myself. Gathered to zhuzh it up and make it look better.
Well, I mean, they're really unlikely to have had access to saffron.
Right. But, this is something that apparently anybody would have eaten this.
Okay, so you've got us going to Whole Foods. You've got us like getting saffron, like, and this is something anybody could eat.
All right, hold on.
Global village, haven't we progressed any as a species?
No, I mean, you could go right down the street. I mean, it's like everything else. It's like, what's a good example? Pasta carbonara. That was poor food. That was, get by food, right? But now that's a fancy dish, right? So
I just remember the movie Ratatouille, where he's going to make ratatouille, and they're like, "That's a peasant dish," Nowadays, you go into a place, and if they've got ratatouille, it's like, whoa.
Because it's elevated. Yes. Yeah. Well, it over and over again we see this. It's like, and part of it is that, if all you have is basic, simple ingredients, then technique has to really shine. So, I forget who it was. Some famous chef said, "If I want to know how good a cook, a chef you are, I will ask you to make an egg, and that'll tell me a lot."
No, I think your sister, who knows a little bit about cooking, said to me that it's an omelet. Like, they will ask you to make an omelet.
Okay.
That is the judge of a good chef or not.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It is odd, because it's like so many other things. If you have access to these ingredients, it's a super simple thing. It's only difficult because we don't have wheat berries at the Kroger's.
There we go. Say the name again.
Medieval frumenti.
Okay, medieval frumenti.
Let's be careful. Who's going in first?
5 young archaeologists have made a remarkable discovery.
Help me.
From the best-selling thriller by Michael Crichton.
Your father wrote that, but he wrote it 600 years ago.
What? I just want to know where my dad is.
Your father is in the 14th century. We need you to help us get him back.
A journey back in time.
DNA streams all locked in.
What about weapons?
Nothing modern goes back.
What the hell are we doing? We're getting a chance of a lifetime.
Think of it as the ultimate field trip.
Everybody take cover now!
From Paramount Pictures.
There's no escape.
And director Richard Donner.
We got 650 years of knowledge on these guys. If we put our heads together, we should get out of here in 20 minutes.
A dangerous rescue. The ultimate battle.
Come on!
For survival.
Let's go!
Paul Walker. Timeline.
All right, you ready to jump in and talk about Timeline?
Yeah.
All right, this thing opens in a place called Castlegarde, a village near La Roque Castle in Dordogne, France. it opens with this guy. He's running. He's on foot. He's being chased by a knight, and then it flashes back and forth between him running through this woods and running through a desert highway or something, and
Yeah.
then it ends with him stumbling and falling on this desert highway where a passing motorist stops to try to save him. When they look at his body, it's got all kinds of strange wounds and stuff like that. All kinds of crazy internal wounds that they can't explain.
Yeah, they really looked at his, like, it's like, wow, very carefully. A lot of hand waving there, but whatever.
So then, while excavating a nearby monastery, an archaeological team discovers a sarcophagus kind of thing that's not like any of them known from this time period. And it has a skeleton of a French knight missing an ear, clutching the hand of a woman, which was not a medieval burial custom. So it piqued everyone's curiosity.
Yeah, we get they don't waste a lot of time with this stuff. It's like boom, boom, boom. So the guy who dies from the arrow wounds or whatever, his body's claimed by his employer. Sad, right? And then over at the dig site, we find out there's the head dig guy. There's a couple of characters that are like male characters around. There's a female character who the head dig guy, his son is into her. That's the only reason why he's hanging out so long, because he's not into this old stuff. And then we get to see the sarcophagus with the knight and missing one ear, and at least they're telling a story about that. And at least the kid's intrigued by that. He's not a kid; he's like a young man or whatever. But
yeah. So let me go over who this team is. So the team leader is Professor Edward Johnston, played by Billy Connolly, who we last saw on this podcast in The Hobbit: The Battle of Five Armies as one of the dwarves. Johnston later traveled to the American corporate headquarters of ITC, the company that funds their digs, to check if anything fishy happened at the site. At the dig, his students are Kate Erickson, Josh Stern, Francois Dantel, and Scottish archaeologist Andre Merrick. That's the one that's more interested in stuff in the past. And it played by Gerard Butler, who we last saw in Dracula 2000. And Chris, the professor's son, played by Paul Walker, who we last saw in Tammy and the T-Rex. So they find some strange artifacts. A lens that looks like it's from one of the professor's bifocals, and a note for pleading for help, both of which they date back to over 600 years.
Yeah.
So these lead ITC to formally bring them in to their headquarters for what turns out to be a pretty big reveal. ITC has the ability to open stable wormholes.
Yeah.
And they opened one and they put a camera through or whatever. They couldn't figure out, it was just like woods. They didn't know where it was in the world. And then someone got the idea to point it up, and they pointed it up and saw the stars. And that was when they realized, based on the constellation, that it was actually in Castlegard in 1357.
Yeah.
So they asked Johnston to jump back in time, and they're given little things to help them come back, little pendants that have a button they can press to bring them back. And everyone within like 50 feet of them or something.
40.
Something like that. Yeah. Josh doesn't go. The original group doesn't come back. So Merrick and his group go to find the rest of them.
Yeah. So to be clear, the Josh is the physicist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they describe the process, and he's like, oh, hell no, I'm not going, because he's like, you stop existing for a few. Basically, this is a murder box. You're being destroyed and rebuilt like elsewhere, which, everything about the technology, as far as I can tell, is just hand wavy and just for plot, and that's fine. But they're very clear on this part. And he's like, no. And then, and everybody's like, I'll do it, I'm like, it's
Isn't that how Star Trek transporters supposedly work?
Exactly, yeah. So
they have to get rid of all their modern stuff, go back in period costume. Like a lot of time travel sci-fi, there's a lot of concern about like not messing with history. ITC sends them back with a security detail. Frank Gordon and 2 ex-military operatives to keep them safe in this hostile world.
Okay, we're coming off of a long line of dinosaur movies, and we all know what happens to the security details in those movies.
Yeah, well, they're the red shirts, right?
They are.
They're the red shirts, and I mean, this is a long tradition in sci-fi TV and movies. Like, the security detail is always gonna die. Like they're just
random civilians with no actual combat skills. They're gonna live for a lot longer, at least, but not these guys.
Yeah, the archaeologist is always gonna outlive the Navy SEAL. Like that's just like a given, right? As soon as they get there, stuff goes sideways fast, and the killing starts fast in this movie. By the way,
oh yeah.
They don't waste any time before they start killing people. So they appear right in the middle of a chase. A young woman's being pursued by English knights, and the security team holds the line, but 2 die protecting the group. So already, boom, 2 down. One manages to activate his return marker while his grenade detonates back in the present.
Like, grenade? Wait, he wasn't supposed to take anything modern back. And that's what he chose to take. What the hell?
But the best part about it is he like unpins this grenade, and then gets transported back. And so then the grenade goes off in the teleporter, destroying the teleporter. So now everybody's trapped in the past. And so Josh has to like help ITC try to fix this thing that has been destroyed by grenade. Like, who knows how long that's going to take. All right.
And the march of the improbable continues. So, okay, some things make you have to like suspend disbelief on a few things. You're going to need to exercise those muscles and just suspend all disbelief here and just get strap in here. It's just going to keep going.
Yeah, so the survivors flee the knights, and the woman leads them to the English-held Castle Guard. Unfortunately, the group gets captured and has to face off with the ruthless Lord Oliver Devan and his second in command, Dick Kerr, played by Martin Sokas, who we last saw as Lord Celeborn in The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. And then in a startling turn, Francois is executed on suspicion of espionage, and the rest are imprisoned alongside Professor Johnston. Turns out Johnston had promised to help the English produce Greek fire as his bargaining chip for survival.
Yeah. He's known as, they call him a magister, which is apparently the word for scientist.
Which, by the way, isn't Greek fire still a mystery? We still don't know how it was made or what it is.
Maybe I'll go out in my backyard and figure it out because, I like fire, so.
I think he was saying that he could make them something like, he knew that he could make something like it, and he knew that that was a thing that they would know what it was. Like if he were to say, I'll make you napalm, like they wouldn't know what that is. But he could say, I'll make you Greek fire, and they would know, Greek fire, that's like this long lost super weapon. So they climb out through a thatched roof or something. This was not exactly the most secure dungeon ever,
No. What was interesting though, because it was like, the man, like, you can't go, I'll go, and she's the one, the woman is the one who found the way out, and we'd already established back in the future, we established that she did climbing and stuff, but literally, she's like, the security guy's like, she's the only one who's light enough to do this, which was better than most things. And what I really did like was actually one that was like, well, we're smarter than these. We got like all these 600 years, 50 years of knowledge that we should be able to. I'm like, you guys have already, you're down by 3 people. You really think you're smarter than these people, or that matters? But in any case, She crawls out through a hole in the thatching, crawls over the top, and comes in a window. And they show her using like climbing techniques you'll recognize from rock climbing and stuff like that. The cool thing about it is like that's actually a skill that most people would not have learned in that time period. And so they wouldn't be worried about anybody doing that nonsense, because most people like, well, I'm just going to fall to my death. Of course, nowadays we're like, oh yeah, we got ropes, we got all this stuff, and I can go to the hospital. No one's going to practice that way in the same way an average person isn't. So she used her skill and she went in through the window, killed a guard, let them out. They killed the other guard. They escape.
Yeah, but I don't think most general audiences would understand what you just said. Like watching it would understand, oh, most people at that time wouldn't really consider this possible,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, because it really is. We learned how to do things for fun that people would not have done unless they absolutely had to, because falling and breaking your leg might mean you were just dead.
Yeah.
Now we're like, let's try that.
They follow their mysterious guide to the monastery, and then the story thickens. Decker is revealed to be William Decker, a disgruntled former ITC employee who frequently used teleportation back to this time. So he can't do it again because it degrades your internal organs every time you do it. And so that's the reason the first guy that they found had all those internal injuries. It was from this. Every time you're reassembled not quite perfectly.
They don't come back right.
So it's like every time it's like making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. It degrades a little bit each time, which is I thought was an interesting twist on the time travel thing.
Oh, absolutely. I thought that was really nice. And the tech CEO type who's running this thing, he's played by David Thewlis, who, he's more famous for his role in Harry Potter as Remus Lupin. He also went on from this point to play as the villain in the first Wonder Woman movie. I thought he was really great in this. I'm like, wow, yeah, you nailed it. He has this arrogance, and he's willing to risk these people, and he's not telling them everything. He doesn't tell any of the archaeologists about the side effects or the dangers or any of that stuff. He just rushes them into it and manipulates them. And he sent back the guy. He sent him back to kill that guy. He's like, you see Decker, you know what to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason Deckard's pissed off at him is because he didn't tell Deckard about the side effects, right? And like Deckard is not surprised that they don't know all this stuff, because it's a typical Michael Crichton villain, right? He's like a lot of the other people we've seen at InGen and stuff like that, who they don't tell them everything they're doing at Jurassic Park. They only tell them the part that the public knows, right?
Yeah.
Very classic Michael Crichton villain.
I thought he was really good in it. I was like, he follows.
Anyway, Deckard kills Gordon like on the spot, while they're tied up and on the, walking on the trail. Yeah. Meanwhile, Devans rallies his knights to assault the castle, and they drag Johnston along. At the monastery, Merrick, Kate, and Chris meet up with de Cerveau, I think is how you say it, and they realize the young woman that's been saving them all this time is actually Lady Claire. Now, Lady Claire, we didn't mention this, but it was told in the beginning that the English forces tried to demoralize the French by hanging her from the ramparts.
Right.
And her death doesn't actually demoralize them. It like enrages them, and they go on to rally and win. So we find out that this person is actually Lady Claire. So their actions have already altered history by saving her from her original fate. So Kate and Chris help shift the tides of the upcoming battle by guiding de Cerveau's men through the pre-mapped monastery tunnels, which give them a strategic edge, because the monastery tunnels leads directly to the castle. It's been sealed up, but they know this because they discovered these tunnels back in the present day.
Yeah. It was cool because they gave her, like, she was sure that it was there. She hadn't gotten a chance to find it in the present day, but she was absolutely sure. And this was the way they were going to get back in there and save their friends. And it actually, it was actually an interesting, like, it's like the knowledge, it's a lot of times like, oh, well, I have future knowledge. I'll give you, Greek fire. No, this was like, I know the layout of this place because that's what I studied. So that was a kind of neat thing. I like that.
Yeah. Okay, so then there's this big battle, night battle, with trebuchets and, arrows and all sorts of things. During the chaos of this battle, Merrick frees Johnston and Chris helps Desirol take down Devan.
Yeah.
I hope I'm pronouncing all these names right. Sorry, we have a lot of French fans. Sorry about my terrible French. So Decatur, in rage, slashes off Merrick's earlobe. And now we know that he's
so happy. He's like, it's me. Because he's getting his butt kicked. And then he's like, wait, my ear. Wait, it's me. He's like, I know I'm winning this fight. And he just starts kicking his ass.
he goes on to defeat Decatur. And he retrieves the group's markers and says a heartfelt goodbye as he rides off to rally the French and secure history as it's supposed to be. He's going to stay. He was the one that always said, like, no, modern times, it's all about the past, Oh
yeah, so He earlier, before all this started, he was like, practicing with a sword and a bow. He's really into this stuff. Plus, he's Gerard Butler, and even though he was already ripped, so.
Back in the present, Josh and Kramer complete the repairs to the teleportation device, the wormhole opener or whatever it is. But Robert Doninger, who's the president of ITC, he's worried about the fallout from these revelations. So he tries to sabotage it. And then in a twist of fate, Doninger is sucked into the wormhole himself and ends up in 1357, arriving right outside the castle where he meets a grim end at the hands of a charging knight.
Yeah.
In the aftermath, Chris, Kate, and Johnston manage to return safely. The team revisits the Castle Guard ruins and they re-examine the now famous sarcophagus. And they learn that Merrick and Lady Claire lived on after the war, raising 3 children who bore the names Christophe, Catherine, and Francois. Their names. Yeah. All right, so there we go. That's kind of the movie.
I was planning on watching them. I told Becca what I was going to watch, and she looked them up, and like this had like, I don't know, something like 3% on Rotten Tomatoes or something ridiculous, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. So that was perfect because I had no disappointment. Instead, I was like, wow, this is way better than I expected. It follows the source material. I feel like I've read a fair handful of Crichtons, not a lot because there's so much Crichton to have read. It is sort of contrived setup, rather contrived setup. I mean, if nothing else, I'm like, well, instead of trying to figure all this stuff out, you could have just made a lot of money seeing things back in time and collecting them later. I mean, really, but whatever. Yeah, it was a fun ride. I enjoyed it.
Okay. I also like this film, but very reservedly. Now, I originally saw it either at the Dollar Theater or at a Blockbuster rental. And it was a similar situation where it's like, I wasn't expecting too much out of it. And I rate movies like on a range from like a 1 to 10 or something. This would fall like right in the middle, like just above a 5, just enough so that I'm like, yes, it's worth watching, but not so good that I'm like going out and recommending it to everyone. And for me, it tips a little more toward the good side because I love medieval stuff, medieval fantasy and all of that. So, and it's rare to see the medieval part done right. So they used actual medieval reenactors who are super into like getting everything right. Rather than hiring extras and costumers and all that, they just got like a medieval reenacting group to be their background people, which was brilliant because the period stuff in this is spot on, right? They get all that stuff right. I didn't see hardly any anachronisms when it came to the medieval stuff, which is very rare for this kind of film, you know? The modern stuff is all a mess. My wife, who's an archaeologist, was laughing at the carbon dating of the inking, and stuff like that. The sci-fi stuff is typical Crichton. You know, it's like the bad guys, it's kind of like you said, the bad guys have all this huge elaborate plan involving time travel when it's like, why go to all that trouble when you could just like make a bunch of money by like, you know, it's like there's a lot of like that's like I feel very typical of Michael Crichton. It's like, why build a theme park around dinosaurs? If you could bring back dinosaurs, there's so much more you could do with them. You know, it's like
well, there's so much more you could do with that technology. It's just like
yeah, exactly. But Michael Crichton, you know, he'll take this idea and then he'll get into a little like so. You gotta sort of go with the flow on a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the medieval battles are awesome in this. Like, I'm not sure what night arrows are, but they made a big deal about them. Like, the regular arrows are flaming arrows. I think night arrows is not. I never even thought about this. I think what they are is they're arrows that they painted black.
This part I hated actually. Well, no, okay, I didn't hate it, but I literally paused the video. I'm like, what the fuck? And went and like, because I'm like, well, yeah, you would, but like, also, okay, so to back up, they were used first. In the movie, first both sides were using flaming arrows, which you could see coming, and you know you could use your shield or maybe dodge or whatever, and then the evil English guy was like, watch this. Night arrows, and then they don't use any fire on there, so you can't see them coming. And I'm like, but like, isn't that just arrows? And
yeah, it's normal arrows. But I thought maybe, and this would make sense, like maybe the arrows were painted black.
Yeah.
So in addition to not having fire, you really can't see them coming.
I think there's a lot of liberties there, but here's the thing about it. It was fun as hell. And when you talk about the action and all that stuff, I'm like, no, I really enjoyed it. And as a matter of fact, I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I wish I'd seen this when I was 13. It would have been like, I'm playing that character, or I want to do this or whatever. And yeah, but yeah, the whole night arrow thing, I'm like, it stopped me in my track and said, okay, I gotta look that up. By the way, there's at least one album that's called Night Arrow, or at least a song, and some other references. So be careful. Who knows what you'll find? You know what? Night Arrow is probably also a reference to an erection, because that just seems like something that would be, you know.
All right.
If it's not true yet, it will be. I'm going to go on UrbanDictionary.com and put that in there.
All right, bringing us back to reality here. I consider this movie like some of the lesser Jurassic Park ones, where it's like it's still worth it for the dinosaurs scenes. Like for me, this is still worth it for the medieval battle scenes. Like there's 2 or 3 of them, and they're really good, you know. And
they were a lot of fun. I loved it. I love that part of it. I kind of loved it that, you know, over and over again, for the most part, the heroes are getting schooled. You know, they're getting beat up. Even the boss's son, with the exception of Gerald Butler's character, who, you know, ends up staying back in time, who showed himself to be, he was an enthusiast already himself. Mostly they just can't hang, you know. Mostly maybe they overpower one guy because there's 3 of them, but it was a nice change of pace, because usually it's like, aha, I just showed up from the future and somehow I'm a badass at everything. This was not that.
I put time travel movies generally into 2 categories. One's where time travel is incidental to the plot, and one's where time travel is integral to the plot. So in time travel movies where it's integral to the plot, it's all about the time travel. It's like the Back to the Future thing. You know, you went back, you messed things up. Now we got to go back to the future, you know, and fix everything. Right. And, you know, and where the time travel is the point of the plot. And then incidental to the plot is time travel is just a mechanism to get people to a different time period. It's like we want to have an adventure in another time. This
Right.
one, all movies are time travel movies sort of exist on that spectrum somewhere. This one's more toward the incidental end for me anyway.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all about like the scenes in the past, not the scenes in the present, you know?
Yeah, no, everything about the time travel, it was all super gimmicky, rigged to put time limits on it, to have, you know, these little dongles that they had to hold. Everything about it was like that, and it's like, wow. I mean, okay. Well, I mean, once you accept that, then you go with the adventure story, which is what it was.
So I think what we're saying here is that this is a movie we give a thumbs up to, but a reserved thumbs up to know what you're getting into is going to be not top tier. This is Saturday matinee. This is the kind of movie I would watch while I was doing laundry or something like that. You know, it's like fun, but not too serious.
I totally agree with that. Fun, not too serious. Nice to have in my belt. So I am probably going to be referencing Night Arrows. People are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you guys see it.
Night arrows, they're like day arrows except at night.
So you can't see them coming.
All right. So we're going to wrap this up saying, if you like the show, please tell a couple of other people about it. We're trying to get the word out there. We don't do ads. We don't do Patreon. We don't advertise on other podcast platforms. We rely on word of mouth solely. You can help us out if you don't have any friends that listen to podcasts or would like to listen to our podcast. You can then try to encourage strangers to listen to it by giving us a good rating and review on whatever platform you got this podcast on, whether that be Spotify or Apple, iTunes, or, you know, we're even putting these things up on YouTube now. So wherever it is, give us a review. Hopefully that'll help us in that little network's algorithm to be suggested to someone who likes that kind of thing. If you want to send us an email, you can at gc8podcast. That's letter G, letter C, number 8 podcast at gmail.com. Until next time, this is Eric.
And this is Will.
Signing off.
So in sum, if you come to this picture looking for a Michael Crichton adaptation spectacular, this might not be the film. But if you go looking for more Gerard Butler falling in love with women and being the romantic lead, this might be the exact film for you.